Hiya! Greetings and salutations. My name is George and we are here at my workbench and I would like to, hey, I'm over here. Okay, fine. 1968 100 watt Superlead, serial number 12380. This is my reference tone for rock and roll guitar. It comes from an era in 1968 that lasted only a handful of months, where amps were built with a serial number in the 12000 to 12300 to 1239798. I'll have to check the archive, but about 100 amps total. I've seen 12276, I think it was. So some amps prior to 12300. That range may be a little more, but overall we're talking in general about around 100 amps. And some of the most iconic Superlead plexi tones that you've ever heard come from Superleads that were made during this short span. Mine is 12380, as mentioned, and it's 99 point whatever % original. There's one changed resistor. It does have original old stock Mullard tubes and Mullard preamp tubes, and the filter caps are original, despite the fact that they probably should be changed. I just can't bring myself to do it. The amp has a distinct sort of a looseness to it, and it does get noisy from time to time. And when that happens, I just play it, or I'll turn it on and leave it on for half a day so those caps reform and the noise gets back under control, and I buy myself a little time. So during this era in 1968, there were some changes to the Superlead circuit, and it got brighter. It got gainier. The negative feedback part of the circuit changed. I've seen several variations on that. And overall, this amp is very bright. It's very aggressive in the upper mid-range. And there are always harmonics jumping off at any setting and at any guitar volume level. So let's start with, everything is dimed, except for the normal channel is off. I'm into the top left input. Treble, middle, bass dimed. Presence, I dime it and I roll it back just about a half of a number to 9.5. And that just holds things together a little bit to keep it from oscillating or just being a little bit out of control. And so dime everything and just tiny smidge back on the presence, and it sounds like this. It's rock and roll. It's very aggressive. It's very bright. The harmonics are there, and there's something distinct in the overdrive on this amp. When it saturates, all of the clipping, for the most part, is happening in the phase inverter and the power amp. And when it distorts, to me, this amp sounds like glass breaking. There's something in that upper mid-range that just goes crash. You can hear it. It's there in the note, the pick attack. The harder you dig in on the notes, the more of that initial transient attack you get. So. I mean, so much so that when I play this amp, I change my technique and tend to dig in more and to really get aggressive on the initial attack with the pick. Now, this amp is never subtle. It's always balls to the wall. It's always on. Even when you roll back the guitar volume, it stays bright and it keeps the chime and it maintains the harmonics. So now neck pickup, and you'll see by the time I roll it on and there's any signal at all, it's already bright and dirty. I'll go to the neck pickup. Now middle position. Just beautiful. The way it feels under your fingers, the harmonics jumping out, the effortless feedback, hold any note and just, you know, just let it ring. Incredible. Okay, for now I have a hot plate patched in with this. Obviously there's no master volume. And this amp is brutally loud. I'm running it at 100 volts and it's still just brutally loud. And because I'm running it with the original cabs, the original G12M 20 watt Celestion speakers, I have to protect those. I've got to knock it down. So we're at -12 on the hot plate. The speakers in the cabs are worth noting. They are dated to July 1967, and the cabs and the head were sold together originally in 1968 to the original owner who I bought it from. And in 1967, Marshall was building these 100 watt EL34 equipped amps, and the G12Ms were still rated at 20 watts each, so each cabinet is only accountable for 80 watts RMS. Celestion didn't change their G12M, but for marketing purposes, they said this cab has to handle 100 watts. And so they printed tiny stickers that said 25W, and they put those over the original label on these speakers that said G12M 20W, and voila, 20 watt Celestion greenbacks now were rated at 25 watts. Now those stickers did not stay attached very well, and most of the G12M 20 watts that had a 25 watt sticker originally, the sticker's fallen off, and sometimes you can see a little residue where it used to be. But for all intents and purposes, these speakers are G12Ms rated at 20 watts. And so I'm only plugged into the straight cab here, and I have to protect it, so I'm knocking down some of the output. This is pretty good. A couple of clicks and it's pretty transparent. At -12, you do lose some of the push in the mid-range, the forwardness of the tone of this amp, and the speakers really working hard and starting to compress and to tame the highs a bit. And so we're missing a little bit of that, but in this context, just know that that's what that amp does naturally. So as a guitar player, this is my reference. This is the tone I hear in my head. This is the tone I hear on old records. And this is when I pick up a guitar and play a note, an electric guitar, this is what I want to hear. As I segued from a professional guitar player into an amp guy, it was no stretch for me to want to emulate this tone and to reference this, and this to set the bar for what I was going for with my own amps and my own designs. So I spent years building replicas of this and other great old Plexi amps to learn what makes them tick, to understand their DNA, to learn how to manipulate that and get more of this and less of that, and make it euphoric and musical, and how do you make it clean up a certain way, and how do you make it compress a certain way and keep the percussive low end when you play low chords and open strings. And so I've been obsessed with that for well over 2 decades now. And several years ago, the Audio Precision 515 audio analyzer came into my life, and that just kind of kicked open a lot of new doors and dug a lot of new rabbit holes, which I've been down ever since. Just deep analyzing and obsessing over the minutiae of what do these circuits do, and how does one old tube compare to one new tube, and transformers, power supplies. What does one cap sound like versus another cap? And so that obsession and all of the data that I've accumulated has coalesced into my own designs, which still are going for that same tone. In 2015, I ushered in an era of my own new designs with the original Metroplex. And that amp was entirely inspired by and intended to cop what this amp does. And it's very good, and they're still sought after today. But I was never completely satisfied. There's something in my consciousness that craves eloquence and efficiency in a design. And why do with 20 components what you can accomplish with 3 or 4 if they're well thought out and well applied? And the more components you add to a circuit, the farther to me it feels like you get away from the original intent and the pure raw aspect of what you want that component or that circuit to accomplish. And so I've spent years now analyzing this amp and parsing down what it takes to recreate it. And then ultimately the absolute highest mandate for what I consider my amplifier career is to separate the tone, the dynamics, the harmonics, the sustain, the essence of this amp from just sheer volume. Because this thing has to be loud. There's no getting around it. And so for me, the goal, the design criteria has been authentic, iconic Plexi Superlead tones, indelibly separated from sheer volume. So that's my long-winded way to say, please take a look and welcome the Metroplex Mark II 100 watt. So it's finally here. Look, this is probably the worst kept secret I've ever had. I've been working on this on and off for years. I've went through 3 years of long COVID. We've been through ups and downs, you name it. And it's joyous to say, here it is, it's finally here. A lot of people have been staying in touch, waiting on this. I've been alluding to the fact that it's coming, and I can say, finally, guys, here it is. There are some differences from the original Metroplex, and from a technical standpoint, I started over right at the input jack here and the input jack here with the analyzer, and went circuit by circuit, gain stage by gain stage, at times component by component, sweeping, analyzing, tweaking, looking at the way the harmonics stack up at one voltage versus another voltage. I went down every path and every rabbit hole, and I've got the gray hair to show it. This Metroplex, the Mark II version, is a 2-channel amp. And the first channel on this amp I'm calling 12380. And that's an obvious reference to the serial number of this original amp. And what it does is exactly what this original 1968 head does. So the gain, the bright channel, the normal channel, the way the tone stack works, the way it saturates, the way it cleans up, it's an absolute emulation of this amp. We have the bright channel dimed. The EQ is all dimed except the presence is pulled back just a smidge. Got the master volume at 3.5, and it sounds like this. Rock and roll, man. I do have the ubiquitous El Capistan giving us some delays, as always. So that's what it sounds like when you take the Metroplex Mark II, dime everything like you would an old Marshall, and just go to town. One thing that this amp does, and I would say 95% of other amps simply do not do. In fact, this could be the new TikTok challenge, for God's sake. Plug into any amp, crank up the gain, get a good solid tone going, and then just roll back your guitar volume. And if it sounds dull and lifeless and you lose all of the magic and harmonics, then that's a fail. And most amps will fail that test, I'm sorry to say. I spent months, literally months, analyzing and creating an emulation circuit just to make this amp clean up and stay chimey and articulate. And everywhere on your guitar volume, you're going to find a usable tone, and a lot of times they're going to be something familiar where you roll to a certain spot and you go, oh, that sounds like this riff or that record or this note from this song or something. And so this is, I'll start on the bridge pickup, just roll back and you'll hear how it cleans up. literally as soon as there's signal passing, as you roll the pod up from 0, it's bright. It has articulation and chiminess. It's already a little dirty too. Let's do the same thing with the neck. And you get those beautiful middle position, more organic, beautiful tones. You also get those beautiful middle position neck and bridge pickup combined tones. Beautiful. That is 12380 channel on the Metroplex, and that's with the gain dimed. Okay, one thing that's unique about this amp is that it has a very, very large 5,000 picofarad bright cap on the bright channel gain pot. And that means that anytime the gain is at less than 10, you've got a huge amount of mid-range and treble getting past there. It makes it very bright and very aggressive at any setting. And this also has that, and anyone who's played an old Superlead will surely recognize that as soon as you start to bring the gain up, you get this very spanky, very bright, snappy, spanky tone. And so that sounds like this. So fun. I love that. If you've got some rhythm parts tracked, you know, thick grinding rhythm parts tracked, and you want to layer another guitar on there, you just do something like this and put it over top, and it just has its own character and attack. Beautiful stuff. So as I roll up this gain control, then it'll get to a point, usually around 6, that the low end starts to fill in. There's all sorts of usable tones in between there. So let's just roll it up and you'll hear how it fills in. That's 10. This is about 6. This is about 4. So spanky. So yeah, right by 6, you can really hear the lows start to come in. I also have other favorite plexi heads that have smaller bright caps or no bright cap at all. And so what I've done here is on this bright channel, I've made a 3-way switch. And you can select the 5,000 picofarad bright cap, a 500 picofarad bright cap, or no bright cap at all. If you select no bright cap at all, in the middle position, what you have effectively is a super bass. Super bass is no bright cap on the gain pot. With this, you don't get that spiky upper mid-range and highs. What you get is just nice, warm, flat, organic tone with more grit as you bring it up. So that sounds like this. See, now you're right in AC/DC, ZZ Top territory, free, you know, all those great early plexi riffs. It's all right there. That no bright cap setting is going to get you there and all that stuff. I mean, even the... delay time's wrong, but you get the idea. And then roll back a little bit. All those beautiful, it's never totally clean, but it's just those beautiful edge and breaking up tones. Love that. So that's no bright cap. Now the 500 bright cap is something that I found hit or miss in old Marshall circuits and transitional at times, but I really like what it does for certain things. I'll show you what. So this is no bright cap. This is 500. So now you get the snappiness and the attack on the note, but you don't have the glass breaking mid-range sound of the 5,000 picofarad bright cap. Just great rock tone all the way. And so that's a 500 bright cap with the gain at right at noon. Now your Les Paul starts acting a little bit like a Telly. It's got that, it's the snap, you know, that aggressive initial transient on the note. But what I like to do when I'm using the 500 picofarad bright cap is to start with the normal channel. This is just like any normal channel you've used on a Superlead. So roll that up. And then just blend in the bright channel with the 500 picofarad bright cap, and you'll hear what it does. So your normal channel is going to blend in that nice round low, and all the initial attack comes from the bright channel. Here's without the normal. Now here's your rock and roll rhythm tone for my money right here. Yeah, man, I could live there all day long. It's it's your Les Paul Marshall rhythm tone. It's right there. And you go right from your chunky rhythm stuff right into your note, you know, the leads and even the single notes. And now, just for comparison, if I just flip to 5,000, goes back to 500, and it just. Yeah, great stuff. Beautiful. So, okay, back to 10. Beautiful. I could have stopped there. That would have been plenty. That's a devastatingly awesome amp. And I thought about stopping there, but I didn't. Because once I had accomplished what this amp does, it occurred to me, if I can emulate this, I can emulate something even more iconic. Something that we've all heard, something that's just imprinted on our brains and in our ears since the late 1970s. This is the definition of aggressive rock guitar tone. And there's an amp, probably the most iconic Superlead of all time, and the serial number of that amp is 12301. And most of you, I'm sure, know what I'm talking about. I happen to know the specs that are in that amp, and it has some idiosyncrasies, circuit-wise, that have been in it since day one. It came right from the factory with some quirks. And it uses a certain type of power tube and gets variac a certain way. And we all know sort of ad nauseum what I'm getting at here. But if I can emulate 12380, then I can convert 12380 to 12301 specs, and I can emulate that also. And what I've done for the second channel on the Metroplex is 12301. And so this is the circuit specs. This is the USA-made large bottle 6A7 tubes, the far less negative feedback, the extra capacitor, the unique tone control pot value. Everything from that amp was emulated and swept, and this is channel 2 on the Metroplex Mark II. obviously I cannot play like the guy we're all alluding to here, but if you listen to the note attack and the way that the chords blossom and the way the harmonics jump out, it's all in there. And at some point we'll get somebody who can play that kind of stuff and shred those licks, and we'll do some clips with that. But for right now, this is 12301. So look, I don't play that style. This is a Les Paul. I'm not trying to recreate the entire rig or anything. Just trying to illustrate that the note attack and the bloom and the just the aggressiveness, the glass breaking upper mid-range, that's all emulated here. And the test, the challenge. Most amps are going to fail that. They just don't stay that chimey and bright and articulate when you roll back. And if you want to nail that thing for that guy, it's got to be there. Because you hear when you roll it, when you do it's got to be chimey, and then it's got to roll right into the heavy, devilish level of saturation. So. Okay, so that is the Metroplex Mark II, the 100 watt and the 50 watt. And just a quick conversation. To call the first channel on this amp 12380, that to me is plain and obvious. The scientific side of my brain says, well, it's a direct one-to-one emulation of this old Superlead, so duh. And so that's 12380. Now, when you get into the lore and the fanaticism and everything else that surrounds 12301 and the guy who played it and the tones he made with it, things can get out there and things can get polarizing and heated. And I just want to make a statement that for the analytical side of me, calling this other channel 12301 just makes pragmatic sense. I've converted this amp to those specs, and emulated it, and that's, to me, that's what this is. Any reference to that, you need to know I'm making it with the absolute reverence and respect that that amp and that tone deserves. And to me, that is literally the most iconic plexi and iconic plexi tone that's ever been committed to tape or song or live concert. I am a lifelong fan of Marshalls and a studier and student of the circuits and why they sound the way that they do and the effect on playing that gives you, and I hope that comes across. That said, this is the Metroplex Mark II. It will be available soon. The 100 watt will ship first because I'm waiting on some chassis and we're building head cabs for the 50 watt. I'm guessing we'll put this up make it available with a pre-order. And the first 100 watts, I'm guessing, will ship in September. And the first 50 watts, we're looking at October. So if this interests you, and if the other options available for Superlead tones just only get you 90% of the way there, and that's not enough. If you're obsessed with that last 5 to 10%, this may be the right amp for you. And if so, then I'd love to build one for you. So this is the Metroplex Metroplex Mark II, and I will put it on the website. Thanks, guys.